You didn't exactly apply to be a corpse collector. You just ended up one. Maybe you were a failed butcher. Maybe the baker's apprentice who didn't run fast enough when the priest said, "We need volunteers." Or maybe you owed the wrong noble a favor. Congratulations. You're now the designated plague wagon guy. Your job? Pick up the bodies of plague victims before they pile up too high in someone's kitchen. Get them out of homes, off the streets, out from under the tavern benches. You'll be given a cart, maybe a rope, and probably a stick. No gloves, no mask, no dignity. Everywhere you walk, there's a new smell. It's like someone tried to cook meat in a sewer and left it in the sun for a week. You get used to it, sort of. It's not that you stop smelling it. You just stop reacting. But here's the worst part. The bodies aren't all the way dead. Some are almost dead. Or maybe dead and twitching. You learn fast not to ask questions. If they're not moving much and smell like death, onto the cart they go. Sorry, maybe Margaret. Corpse collectors were technically paid by the town, but guess what? When your entire economy is collapsing, and half the treasury just keeled over, foaming at the mouth, nobody's handing out coins on time. So you take what you can get. A chunk of old bread, some wine so strong it burns a little too much, a favor from a merchant, or a slightly less awful place to sleep. Barter economy, baby. You smell like death, but maybe someone will trade you soap. Spoiler, they won't. Where do you sleep? Not in your own house. That's long gone, or condemned. You can't sleep in a regular inn either. People assume you're crawling with plague. So, you find corners. Abandoned chapels, empty haylofts, crypts, even. Just you and the dead, curled up together under a tattered cloak. You don't worry about ghosts. You're too tired to care. The rats aren't afraid of you. In fact, they hang around the cart like hungry little co-workers. They nibble on corpses. Sometimes they try to climb into your sleeves. Sometimes they succeed. You consider them part of the team. Barry the rat rides shotgun. He's missing an eye. You're missing hope. It's a match made in pestilent heaven. Your outfit is practical. If by practical you mean whatever cloth you can wrap around your nose before the smell eats your brain, you might tie herbs into your clothes, rosemary, thyme, a dead pigeon someone swore warded off disease. Forget the iconic plague doctor mask. That's for the rich weirdos. You've got a hood, a rag, and some lucky garlic. It doesn't work, but hey, it gives the illusion of effort. Yes, people really shouted this. Sometimes you did, too. Sometimes a bell was involved. You'd walk down the street at dawn, yelling it like a plague-themed ice cream truck. People would drag corpses to the curb. Others just left the bodies by the door overnight like Amazon returns. You didn't ask questions. You just piled them up. Business was always booming. You never had a slow day. You'd think people would thank you. You're cleaning up literal corpses. But nope. You're cursed at, spat on, blamed for spreading the disease. Parents pull their kids away when you pass. Clergy mutter prayers behind your back. You're treated like a walking corpse, which, to be fair, you kind of are. Your teeth are black, your nails never clean, and you've forgotten how to smile. What do you eat? Whatever's left. Spoiled bacon. Hard cheese that smells like feet. Moldy bread if you're lucky. Once someone gave you a pot of stew. You didn't ask what kind of meat. Probably rat. You ate it anyway. Sometimes the job makes you forget to be picky. Hunger wins. Even when you start hallucinating from food poisoning. You named your spoon Clive. He talks back sometimes. When the graveyards overflowed, and they did fast, you took bodies to the pits. Huge trenches outside town, dozens of feet deep, filled with layers of the dead. Sprinkle some lime, toss in another body. Repeat. You started recognizing the faces. The baker's boy, the innkeeper's wife, your old schoolmate. Eventually, even that stopped bothering you. The pit never stopped yawning, and your cart never came back empty. In normal times, people had funerals. Bells, priests, incense, the works. But when the plague hit, there weren't enough priests to go around. Most of them were already in your cart. So now, a funeral meant a quick muttered prayer, a shove, and a slap of dirt. Sometimes not even that. No eulogies, no flowers, just a pile of strangers in a trench. You gave up trying to remember names. You'd think collecting bodies would be the worst part, But sometimes, disposing of them was worse. The pits filled fast, then the rivers, then the wells. People got desperate. You once had to remove a body that had been stuffed inside a church's bell tower. No one knew who put it there, or why. You decided not to ask questions after the fifth skeleton fell out mid-peel. People tried everything to avoid the plague. Rubbing onions on their feet, drinking mercury, sitting in a room full of crushed emeralds and fart vapors. You tried garlic and prayer. Neither helped. Some folks thought you were a walking cure. Others thought you were cursed. A woman once threw a shoe at you and yelled, "Begone, plague demon!" You just nodded. You were, in fact, a bit demonish by then. Eventually, towns gave up on sanitation and moved to arson. Entire houses were burned down with the body still inside. It was efficient, that's what the mayor said, right before dying in his soup. You once saw a man try to rescue his goat from a burning house. The goat bit him. The man got the plague anyway. Neither made it. Moral of the story, never trust a goat. There was no place for you in town. Not the tavern. Not the market. Not even the church steps. You were a ghost that hadn't died yet. You sat on your cart, in the alley, next to a barrel of fish heads. You had a stool. It was missing a leg. You propped it up with a brick. It smelled like rot and hope. You called it the throne. Royalty in rags. There were no contracts, no badges, just a verbal you, cart, dead stuff. You weren't on any record, unless someone scribbled your name in the corner of a death toll by mistake. And when someone did try to keep track, that person died. Paper doesn't hold much authority when the world is collapsing and your boss is coughing blood. In bigger towns, there were multiple corpse collectors. You'd end up in a sort of dark caravan, each cart creaking along, trying not to tip over with the weight of bloated bodies. Some days you'd nod to the guy next to you, never speak. Just a nod. Like two janitors at a haunted castle. Another day, your eyes said. Another 100 corpses, his eyes replied. Plague started with a boil. Then came the fever, the coughing, and the blood. But before all that, the itch. That cursed little itch behind your ear or between your toes. Every itch made you panic. Was it a flea? Was it the start? You scratched through 2 shirts and some rope once. Turns out it was just hay, but the fear never left. One doctor suggested strapping a live chicken to your plague sores. Something about the bird absorbing your sickness. So someone handed you a chicken. You named it Dr. Cluck. You strapped him to your leg. He pecked you. You got an infection. Then the bird died. You threw him in the pit. Science. After a while, you stopped feeling much. You saw babies cradled in arms that had no breath. Lovers locked in their final embrace. You saw dogs gnawing bones that had names. And you knew, sooner or later, you'd be in someone else's cart. Maybe Barry the rat would drive it. Maybe nobody would. Maybe you'd just rot in the alley, forgotten. You got strangely okay with that. People said pigs were filthy. But at least pigs rolled in clean mud. You rolled in whatever used to be Margaret. Some mornings you woke up, sniffed your shirt, and genuinely wondered if you were decomposing. Children would cry when you passed. Dogs would whimper. Even the rats hesitated. That's how you knew it was a particularly fragrant day. "Ah," you said, "today I smell like destiny." Baths were rare, water was risky, and soap was expensive. You tried once. Used a stream outside town, came back refreshed and shivering, caught a fever. Everyone panicked. They thought you had the plague. Again, you were fine, just cold. But after that, people told you to stop bathing. Apparently, your stench was the only thing keeping evil spirits away. You became your own anti-demon aura. At one point, someone gave you a little bell to wear. Said it would warn the town you were coming. You jingled like a medieval cat. It was humiliating. But secretly, you liked it. The bell cleared your path. Nobody got too close. It was your personal do not disturb signal. You were disgusting and proud. Tensions were high. One time, someone mistook you for a plague ghost and shot an arrow at you. It missed. Barely. You fell into a manure pile trying to dodge it. When you stood up, the shooter apologized. Sort of. "Thought you were dead already," he said. You nodded. "Fair," you replied, and walked away steaming. You once stole a loaf of bread off a dead man. It was still warm. You didn't ask how. You ate it anyway, behind a tavern, crying just a little. That's what the plague did. Made you okay with things you'd never do before. stealing food, burning corpses, naming your lice. You weren't the same person anymore. And honestly, neither was anyone else. People believed the plague had moods. Some thought talking softly to your boils helped. Others whispered prayers into a dying man's ears, hoping it would calm the disease. You tried it once, whispered to a body, "Please don't explode." It did anyway. Lesson learned. The Black Death doesn't negotiate. A friar once offered to bless your cart. He sprinkled holy water on a pile of corpses, muttered Latin, and immediately coughed blood onto your shoe. You just stared at him. Typical, you said. Religion helped some people cope. But you had your cart, your stick, your garlic necklace, and Barry the plague rat. That was your trinity. Some folks, before dying, danced. Literally. Their muscles twitched, their minds snapped, and they spun in circles until they dropped. It was terrifying. One girl twirled down a staircase and into your cart like it was choreographed. You whispered, "Bravo," then pulled the sheet over her face. The only thing thriving was death itself. Artists painted skeletons walking in parades. Priests preached about judgment. People wore plague charms shaped like skulls. You made your own. A necklace of tiny bones, mostly rats probably. You said it was protection. Really, it was just something to fidget with while waiting for the next pile of doom. Doctors sold all kinds of remedies. Dried lizard tongues, powdered mummy dust. One man tried to sell you a jar of plague repellent that smelled suspiciously like fermented eel. You declined. He screamed that you'd regret it in the next life. You waved politely and rolled your cart away, stepping over a rib cage. You were already regretting this life.